you don't come to class but once every 2 weeks. Someone tries to take your spot. You've been busy lately.
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, actually.
Like school business or
Yeah.
signing or
Yeah.
something every day.
There's a lot going on for sure. I have my textbook.
Okay.
Where do you want it?
Okay. Got it. Oh, our bells are turned off, but it should have gone off. So there are two assignments I'd like to give you some points for, 131 and 131 and 134. 131 was topics that will be on the AP exam part 2. I didn't collect that last time because we didn't do the last page until last class. And that one has been opened up in Google Classroom since I've seen you guys last time. But I would also like 134 topics on the AP exam part 3. And I only opened that up in Google Classroom like an hour ago because I didn't realize it wasn't opened up. So make sure that you have both of those things. If you need to check in Google Classroom real quick, then please do. Alright, we got 3 or 4 things to check off today. We're going to quickly go through the orange slideshow again, just so I can kind of point out how important it is that you guys give your best effort. we are going to look at topics that will be on the AP exam part 4, but that's the one y'all just picked up, and if you look at it, you can see that it's very short. It's not going to take but about 5 minutes, but it's an important topic I need to make sure you all know. You've been using it recently, but I think this practice is still good. 36, we're going to do one practice FRQ, but instead of me dictating which one or which type it needs to be, I'm going to give you some flexibility, so we'll talk about that when we get there. And finally, that U substitution circuit that I've been asking you to work on, if you had time to, for about 4 different class periods. You should have a chunk of time today to actually get a bit of it done.
Yeah, I think that was your
Okay, so same slideshow I've been showing you guys. Again, just very quickly, pass rates on the left for Fayetteville High School. My students' pass rates on the right. It's the only ones that I know the breakdown of 1, 2, 3s, and 4s. So if you think you're going to a school that only takes 4s and 5s, which is not many, but I know there's a couple, just to give you some breakdown of that. But if you do not study and or you do not come into the AP test ready to give your full and best effort, it is not an automatic. If it's automatic, the scores would be way higher than that. Pass rate for worldwide is very consistent. So each time I've shown you this, I've pointed out, if it feels like an easy test versus if it feels like a hard test, they scale the score. So either way, you should be doing your best. And I hate this for you guys, but for some of you, if you don't give your best effort, you could fall a couple questions short. So 3 more points would have gotten half the people who got a score of 2 to get a 3 a couple years ago. Only 11 points to go from a 2 to a 4. Make sure you're showing as much work as you can on FRQs. If it's a calculator FRQ, make sure you're writing down what you're typing in the calculator. But if your explanations, justifications are more than a sentence, you're probably on the wrong track. You're probably trying to justify something that it might be true, but your justification's probably not super sound if it's that lengthy. And remember, you don't have to simplify any arithmetic. So 5 plus 3, you don't have to change it to 8. Any calculus or even like f of 1, you actually have to evaluate that. You can't just leave your answer f of 1 or part of your answer f of 1. Okay, a lot of the FRQs are pretty consistent, but from this grader 2 years ago when I did this workshop, he said that one would always be a geometric graph and one would always be a rate in, rate out. Always round to 3 decimal places. They allow you to round to the nearest 3 decimal places or to truncate the 3 decimal places. So if you round incorrectly, you will still get the points as long as you round to 3 decimal places. And if a function is differentiable, automatically write down that means it's continuous, because sometimes you need that. Okay, some of the reasons y'all have given to pass the AP exam up there, and then 6th period went a little bit deeper last class on the first one. So not having to take Cal 1 in college boils down to money and time, because money, you're going to have to take the class, you're going to have to buy the textbook. I think my calculus book was like $200 or $300. College textbooks are very expensive. So even if you have a scholarship, a lot of those scholarships, like, don't they let you keep the difference if you're making more than you spend?
probably. I don't know.
I think they do. But anyway, even if you have a scholarship, you don't want to have to be paying for things that you don't have to. So, and of course, I think Cal 1 would be easy for you guys after this course, because it would be a lot of the same stuff again. But you still would have to do the homework, you still have to prepare for the test, you still have to go for class, and that would just be one less class you could take your first semester, which can slow you down and might make you graduate 6 months later or a year later. I don't know that it fits into this exactly, but I don't know if I have spoke on this, but usually there's a few people that kind of figured out I don't necessarily want to go into a math or science career, and that's perfectly fine. But keep in mind that in college, just like in high school, they expect you to get a certain number of electives. So even if you have a degree, maybe you want an art degree and you don't need anything more than college algebra, having the Cal 1 credit would still count as an elective, so it's still going to count as one less class you have to take. So, does that make sense? So, you guys have come this far, so obviously you'd like to finish strong. Okay, next up would be topics on the AP exam part 4. So again, I think a lot of you guys are going to recognize this just about instantly, but let's go ahead and talk about it for a second and then give you just a couple minutes to actually work it out. So the first fundamental theorem of calculus is when knowing how to deal with these bounds. When you integrate, you plug in the top bound, get a number, plug in the bottom bound, get a number, and then subtract them. You've done that hundreds, if not thousands of times this semester. But the second fundamental theorem of calculus, oftentimes this can show up as multiple choice, but a lot of times they sneak this in the FRQs as well, because you'll need to take the derivative of an integral. And so remember, these kind of cancel each other out, but this guy down here needs to be a constant for this to work this way. And if that's the case, you get to just plug that variable in to the other variable, and it simplifies to a nice f of x. So notice this one here, they're not numbered, but if I did that, the bottom's a constant. I need to know the derivative of an integral. So it's almost like these two things cancel out, but you need to plug this in. So the derivative would be the square root of 2x plus 7. And then just to get a numerical answer here, they want us to plug in 9 into that. So 18 plus 7 would be 25. Square root of 25 would be 5. Again, you guys have seen this many times before, and it has been popping up here or there. But again, it's the second fundamental theorem of calculus. So if you don't believe me that it's important, then you should know based on the name. So if you guys would take a moment and try the rest of these top 9. Yeah, clear?
Would it be plus or minus 5?
It would not be plus or minus 5. When we take square roots like this, it's called the principal square root function. We just always assume plus. When you need plus or minus is when you solve an equation like this and you take the square root of both sides. You got to do plus or minus. But if the square root's already there for you, you just use the plus version. Okay, I'm going to freeze my screen here and also work out these 8 at the same time as you. And then we'll do a quick check to make sure that all of that is working out. Give everyone a few minutes to try those 9. But when you're finished, feel free to try the next one to see if you remember how to do it before I tell you. What was today? AP Psych?
Yeah, apes, like two apes.
Oh, okay. Would anybody need an extra minute for the first 9? It's fine if you do. I just don't want to wait if you don't. Okay, I didn't show much work here because I was seeing that they all kind of worked out nicely. So first, just check off yours. If you got something different, double check your work. And you need to be able to do these to be able to do the bottom half of the page. So I need you to speak up and tell me which ones you would like me to go over. Of course, a few of those you need to refer to the unit circle, those trig values. Okay, we good with that? None of them we need to talk about in detail? Okay, then the bottom 9 are still the same thing. We want to take the derivative of an integral, which is not the same thing as integrating a derivative. They work two different ways, not the same question types. And as long as this is still a constant, then when you take this derivative, this just gets plugged into what other variable there was. So that would give us, I'll just write it down here. That would give us the square root of 15 minus 3x. But if this upper bound does not have a derivative of 1, we have to multiply by that derivative. So that is, again, without working it out the long way, which you can, you could integrate that. You could plug in 3x the first time, -5 the second time, simplify it, take the derivative. That's just going to take a long time for these questions that you can really pick up with pattern recognition. So that part comes in from chain rule. So what I have highlighted there is the only difference. So go ahead and fill in the rest of the 8. And again, you should be doing them fairly quickly, especially after a couple of them. So let's just make sure that we get those down. Let's give everybody a minute to catch up and then we'll check answers. I did not simplify mine very much. And these are a little harder to check because they didn't have you evaluate them at a number. But the second one, I just plugged in the 2x everywhere there was a t. And then this is different than the top page because you had to worry about the chain rule. So times 2. Plugged 2x everywhere there was a t, and then multiplied by 2 because of chain rule. Plugged 2x everywhere there was a t, and then multiplied by 2 because of the chain rule. Plugged in 2x everywhere there was a t, and then multiplied by 2 because of the chain rule. Plugged in x squared everywhere there was a t, and then multiplied by 1 over 2 square root of x because of chain rule. Plug this in, don't forget chain rule. Plug that in, don't forget chain rule. Plug that in, don't forget chain rule. Now, while this might seem excessive, again, I would expect your AP test to probably have 3, 4, 5 points tied to just this one skill. By the time they give you a multiple choice or two, and it shows up in an FRQ or two, now it doesn't usually look like this. It's usually a little bit more indirect, but like this one specifically, one of those practice questions I had you do last class, this was like half of it. It was a mean value theorem question, and it said something like, it was the first one I think you had to practice. How many times is the instantaneous rate of change equal to average rate of change? And so instantaneous rate of change, you needed to be able to take the derivative of this, and so if you don't know the derivative of this is that, then you really can't move forward on that question type. So I think that's exactly the same one. Any questions? Are you guys awake today?
Yeah.
Okay. We're good with this?
Yeah, good.
Okay. So if you're not comfortable with this, make yourself re-practice it because, again, it's too many points on a skill that does not take a lot of practice to ignore. So, okay. Next up, this is going to work out great timing-wise. So I would like you to do another FRQ, but instead of me telling you which one to do, I feel like you have practiced at least one of all of the common types. So I'm looking at this big handout I gave to you guys, the AP Survival Guide is what I titled it. Again, there's information about stuff you should do before the AP exam and during the AP exam. Stuff like making sure your calculator is in radian mode and a bunch of little things. I don't think I typed this on there, but if you have your own calculator, make sure it's charged or has fresh batteries. You don't want your batteries to die on you in the middle of the test and give you one more thing to worry about. But one of these pages has the 6 most common types. So type 1 was rate and accumulation. So a lot of like rate in, rate out type problems. We did some of those. Type 2 was linear motion, or also known as particle motion. We've done one of those recently. Type 3, graph analysis. We did a bunch of those a couple weeks ago. That's where you're looking at like a first derivative graph and using it. Type 4 was area and volume. So area between two curves, volume from cross sections, volume from rotations. We have not reviewed that much, but that was because that was in the last unit. So, but that is a common type. And then last class we did an example of tables and Riemann sums. It was the one that had a really low average. But on several of those that we have practiced recently, I gave you one on the front that we did together, and then I gave you an optional one on the back. So I want you to pick the one that makes the most sense. Some people should probably be getting extra practice on the rate in, rate out. Some people may want tables and Riemann sums. Some people may feel like they need to practice the particle motion more. So I am giving you that freedom for this part of the assignment to pick which one you want. So I've typed up a few of those so that you can find them easily. The back FRQ on 133 is where we practice tables and Riemann sums. Or you could do the back of 130, which is another particle motion, like position, velocity, acceleration, speeding up, slowing down, stuff like that. The back of 128 is another rate in, rate out type of question. Or you can do one from, if none of those sound like ones that you know you need more practice on, handout 124, I gave you all 6 of the FRQs from 2022. Since those are the most recent ones, that would be what, if I had to put money on what yours would look like in 2023, that would be the closest that I could give to you. I had you do one of those already, so you've got 5 more unless you have already done some extra practice. And if you've already done extra practice, then you can count one of those as yours.
Are you guys from this in that we just did right?
I'll put it in Google Classroom so you can turn it in.
Okay, and then this use substitution circuit, is that gonna be due, or should we just work off practice? I'm not gonna be here a lot, so I just wanna know.
What do you mean? You missed like the last 2 weeks?
Yeah, well, now I've got AP exams, and track state's on Thursday, so I'm not gonna be here Thursday or Friday. So just,
My guess would be that we'll probably finish the use substitution one on Thursday. So if I expect you to turn it in, I'll put it on Google Classroom.
Did the FRQs used to be easier?
Did they what?
Did they used to be like easier?
2010. No, I don't think so. I think every year if you look at all 6 of them, you might think 1 or 2 are easier, and you're going to think 1 or 2 are really hard. Like, I think it's just kind of a mix. I don't know that anyone ever sees all 6 and say, all of these look easy or all of these look hard. But again, if I was you, I would be practicing all of these, especially all 6 of the 2022s. But I will leave that up to you. You pick which one you think is most important. And again, I know some of you might not be here on Thursday because of AP exams, so if there is something you need to turn in, I will put it on Google Classroom so that you don't lose points that way. And of course, grades will wrap up for seniors this week, at the end of this week, since this is y'all's last week. For everybody else, your AP exam is next Monday, and so we won't have a ton of grades or assignments after that. However, make sure that you don't throw your stuff away, because there are some assignments that you've done that I may say, okay, let's go ahead and turn this in, I'll give you some points for it, or turn this in, I'll give you some points for it. But I don't know, we'll just play that by ear. Okay, you guys have about 10 minutes till your lunch break, so if you want, I kind of talked too long here, but I'd like you to spend a full 15 minutes. So you probably just need to time yourself, and then if you need to go to lunch and then come back and give yourself an extra 5 minutes. It's not like this is, the real AP exam or anything, so it's not that big a deal that it's segmented. But whichever one you pick, obviously everyone's probably doing something different. So you need to score it yourself, and you need to look at the corrections yourself too. Did anybody have an AP exam yesterday?
Yeah.
You did? Your chemistry one? How was it?
It was fun.
About what you expected, or easier or harder?
I don't know.
Are you feeling mean to?
For AP exams,
Yeah.
maybe.
Wow, that's very discriminating.
So you're not real sure how you did?
Yeah, I'm just waiting for my scores.
I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but I think most of the country, like Arkansas is very lucky in that Arkansas pays for all your AP exams, but like a lot of states, if you want to take the AP test, you have to pay for it. So, which is still a good deal.
How much are they?
It's like maybe 100 or 200. It's not more than that.
$200. Dang.
How much are you gonna spend going through college?
Yeah, I guess, but
At
it's a
least
lot. If you
at
take
least
multiple-
30,000.
Multiple AP classes.
That's true.
What are they using that money for?
Pay the graders, probably.
Yeah,
Do
I
the
mean,
graders get paid?
to make
The supplies?
to make an AP test, like no exaggeration, it probably costs at least $1 million. Like they can't just like make a question. It's not like me making a test where I just make a question and give it to y'all. Like they have to like give the question to like test subjects, and like they'll grade it, and then like if for some reason boys are scoring 10 points higher than girls, then there's like something wrong with the question, and like they can't use it, but they have to do like all that kind of data
A lot of
analysis.
research on.
Yeah, and like I mean, I can't think of a good name example, but like if a question like was talking about somebody was doing something and the name was Osama bin Laden or something, it would be distract. Well, I know it's not. They wouldn't be dumb enough to pick that, but like there are some names that would be a distraction, and like they have to.
Oh, the wording has to be checked, exactly.
Yes, like it has to be like field tested and everything. I don't know if the ACT does this, but I know the ACT Aspire. It's been a few years for some of you guys, but it'll say in the test directions some of these questions may not be scored,
Oh,
and that's
yeah.
what they're doing. They're making sure that it's like valid across the board, fair for everybody,
I think
and that
ACT or some
Oh, wait,
one of
so
them
we
had
are-
extra questions at the end that they're like, oh, we're testing out these questions if you have time or something.
yeah.
So for the ACT Aspire, we are the test subjects,
Yeah, pretty
For
much.
some questions, not all of them.
and you don't get paid.
And you don't get paid? No.
They pay $1 million for the AP exam, but I mean, ACT Aspire, that's really good. Okay.
And I mean, College Board also like pays these people to do these live videos and stuff now, and they run the website, the AP Classroom website, and if y'all had to pay for your AP exam, like some of you would choose not to. Like
Yeah.
you want to learn some calculus, but like you don't want to be on the hook for passing the AP exam. So that happens a lot of times in other states. I'm just
If
saying.
you knew like you probably weren't gonna pass it, or like you were struggling, you didn't want to pay
Yeah.
for it.
And I think that there's like a deadline you have to say by like October or something.
Yeah.
But then if you don't show, it's only like a $50 fine or something instead of paying for the whole thing. Anyway, I'm just saying y'all don't have to pay for your AP exams, which is a blessing. I just didn't know if you knew that a lot of people did have to pay
I
for
knew a lot
it.
of people had to pay, but I didn't know how much they were.
Oh, I mean, it's at least 50 because I know that's the like
Yeah, like the late fee.
the penalty if you just don't show.
Did you take AP classes in high school?
I did not. I did college algebra and finite, but we honestly didn't have near as many AP classes when I went to school here. I could have done AP calculus, but
You went to school here,
yeah.
Mr. Reed, did you teach it?
hmm
and you decided to come back and teach?
Yeah. You saying you wouldn't come back to be a teacher here?
No.
No, absolutely not. He will not catch me anywhere near.
As soon as I'm graduated.
Well, don't you have a favorite subject?
Really?
Not really.
I mean,
No, the classes get so hard that it's hard to like
yeah,
enjoy
it depends on like
math.
how difficult.
You don't think you
Calculus
could
is
go
so
teach
hard.
Algebra 1
Yeah,
right now?
I guess,
I
but
don't
like it
even
wouldn't
know
be
how to
fun.
do
It
it.
wouldn't be like fun. Like I wouldn't like enjoy. You know what I mean? Like, for me, that would not be an enjoyable job
Hmm.
to have. Like, I'd want
What
a
job do y'all think you're gonna have that you go to and y'all are like having parties and
I don't mean having parties.
just taking long lunches and
That
your boss doesn't care and
that is
you'll
more
probably get a
interesting-
job
more
that gives you
interesting to
2
me.
2 weeks of paid time off. You'll remember how it was, like how late you could wake up and still make it to school. How you had summers off and Thanksgiving off and Christmas off and spring break and Martin Luther King Jr. Day and snow days.
You know?
Okay.
I mean, I am going to college. I'm not going straight into a job after this. I am going 4 more years of school.
That's true, but then you gotta 4 or 5 years from now you're gonna wake up and
Yup.
pick a path.
Mhm.
But yes, Mr. Reef was one of my teachers. He looks exactly the same as when I had him as a teacher. He did not change at all. And I think he's still, like, I've seen his closet, but I remember being a student and like every single class he'd like go to his closet and then he'd come out with like a different toy.
Yes.
Like,
We spent like I'm a regular physics, so it's not like AP, and we'll spend like the entire class period just like messing around with something from his closet, and then he'll be like,
oh, he lets you go in there and see.
No, well,
Oh, okay.
He'll pull something out, and he'll just spend the entire class period just talking about
Yeah.
it.
He like
And then we get to the test, and he's like, "What? I told you guys about this. You don't understand anything?" And we're like, no, we haven't really talked about any of this yet."
I don't know if we offered AP Physics back then, but I was also a very lazy high school student, so I didn't know.
feel that.
You guys are not lazy. You guys are all way better workers and way smarter than I was when I was your age. Okay, it is time for lunch, but again, the bells are off, so make sure you guys are paying attention to the clock to be back.
Oh, you hung it up.
I tried to put it in the most awkward spot for you. I could put it on that whiteboard.
It's okay, I'll let that one.
No.
Keep less.
that new?
Toy. What are you gonna use that thing?
The TV? Well, I don't know what the timeline is, but apparently the district is buying one of those for each teacher. They just have 6 of them right now. And since I'm the department head for math, I'm like,
Nice.
well, it's more a pain in the butt because if a math teacher wants to borrow it, then I have to like check it out to them and stuff. The downside is, so in a couple years, all teachers will have them, and it's very nice. It's like a really, really good smart board, but they're going to stop buying projectors and bulbs.
Oh,
So that will be the
that's
screen.
it.
That's going to be the screen to learn from
It's
in each
very
class.
small for the whole class.
Yeah, that's what
As
I'm
far as,
worried
like,
about too.
seeing from the back corner.
This is my whole childhood.
Well, you know what an overhead projector is?
Well,
No, not that projector.
yeah, it's just this is bigger, but yeah, like you were saying, if you're sitting on a tall person,
Yeah, you can see it.
you
like,
can't see
through
that
people.
short.
You can see over people at least.
Well, it might raise up a little bit. I'm not sure, like vertically.
Oh,
It's a pretty nice little stand, but yeah, I'm not.
It's just a small screen for that time.
Since you guys are so interested in becoming teachers, a lot of times the way education works is someone has an idea like this, and if it takes 2 or 3 years to implement, then usually like you run out of money or somebody else is in charge, and
Yeah.
so I'm hoping that's kind of what happens because projector, it's just so much easier to see that than it would be to look off the bat. But that is why I have it. Okay, we got 23 after, so we're supposed to start back at 22 after. So before your lunch break, you guys were working on whichever FRQ that you chose, whichever one that you thought would be the most beneficial to your time, but you didn't quite have 15 minutes, so please go ahead and finish that up. And you also need to check the scoring guide, which should have a link at the top of the page for you. And please learn from your mistakes. If you're just doing it for practice, that's good, I guess, but it's not nearly as beneficial as hearing which parts you got wrong and which parts you didn't know how to do. So. And I need just a few minutes to get these homeworks typed in, and then I'll come around and offer some help. Oh, so do y'all know what an overhead projector is?
Saw that one.
Huh?
That's just a projector.
Yeah, I have to look this up. This is how, like, we did everything. Even like my first year of student teaching, I think I used a projector the whole time. Well, 2 of the 3 times. Not to try to make myself sound old or anything, but it's not a good picture. Okay, that's an overhead projector. you have to put like this clear, like piece of paper down right here, and you write on it with a marker, and a light like shines up through it and then reflects it off this and shines it on the board.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I see.
Oh,
It's
you've
like
seen
the
it?
little ladybugs. That's what they call them. Have you not seen it? It's like that.
I
but it's
never
like
heard
a
that.
ladybug, and it's like red.
Oh no,
Yeah.
I've never heard that. But yeah, as a teacher, like you would write with those markers, and your hand would be like covered in like marker every day.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, that's what we had to do. You can kind of see on that one. So this would be my childhood. And there's some stuff that I hate to just throw away. But like this. So back when we had overhead projectors, it was hard to show people what you were doing on a calculator. So that's what this thing is. You could like hook it up to a calculator, and then like it shows what you're doing here, and then if it's on a projector, it like shines up and you can like see the calculator screen.
Oh.
So this is basically trash now, but I don't know. I feel bad throwing it away, so I just leave it here as decoration. There was one page that I think someone turned in last class that did not have a name on it. And it was topics on the AP exam number 2. I think it was somebody who turned it in early, but
Probably me. That's me.
no, I've got yours. It's not you.
Well, I turned in, I think I turned in one of the pages twice, so. Okay, yeah, that's not me. I turned in that page, but I think I turned in the other page that goes with that, the class prior to that.
Okay, I should find it then. I'm trying to sort this all. First guess might be Dylan. Because I got this page, that's the second page. This back page is not yours. I've got your second page, but I don't have your first page. That's not yours. Here's that one back. If you do find the first page, make sure you turn it back in, because I did not find that in there. No, this one's yours. It is. try to pass back some papers, especially since I know some of you won't be here on Thursday if you have a different AP test. Of course, you're welcome to stop by on Wednesday or Friday during advisory for either help or picking up any of your assignments, especially if you think it's something that you'd like to look at to study with. But in the meantime, if you guys do have a math question I can help with, just stop me as I come down. Also got your mini quizzes from last class and some old papers and stuff to pass back too. So I'm just going to keep passing these out. But again, if you have a math question, please stop me because I can pass this stuff out anytime, or you can get it during advisory. But not always there. Which one did you pick? First one?
Yeah.
Just because it's the first one, or?
No, this in and out question, I don't really understand it. I've done these wrong. I got A and B,
Right.
but C and D. I'm still.
Well, rate sounds like derivative to me.
Yeah.
The derivative?
Yeah, this is right. So it should have been A prime before. It's, and then because A prime is okay.
Yeah, and then you have to take the derivative of an integral, which is what we just practiced when y'all first came in today. That's how it sneaks in there sometimes.
I have a question. Will this one really be 2x since it's integral, or will I do it secant?
Well, I would probably try 2x first, but if you pick 2x, then du is going to be 2dx, which is not going to make great substitutions. Like, you're not going to be able to cover everything. So in this case,
Because that's against the secant.
yeah, so why don't you make this whole thing be your u?
Secant 2x.
And then du would be secant 2x tangent 2x, which is almost exactly what you need. I think you just need to do with the 2.
Will I just make this u and this?
No, wait. The derivative of secant something is secant something tangent something, but then chain rule you need to multiply by 2 also.
Just one time by 2?
Mhm.
So you said that by 2.
Uh-huh. You're gonna need a 1/2 in there somewhere. You might wanna wait to put your papers away since I've got a stack of them coming still. the quotient there. You don't get to just take this derivative and then take that derivative. That would be nice if it worked that way, but it doesn't. This one, there should be a second page with this. And I don't know if I ever found it, so you might want to keep that one out in case I pass that back to you. Is this your handwriting? Yes. Okay. One, I'll update the grant.
this out right with the thing you were doing earlier today.
Okay.
I got to here, but I didn't put like the equals 0, so I didn't need the point for that. I just did this and then did what else to do. But so then you said this equals 0 and then you get this, it says. And then they find each of like the A and B what T equals. So
Okay, so
is that
whenever
kind of
you-
what they're doing here?
Right here, when it says greatest number,
Yeah.
to me that sounds like the extreme value theorem. So in the extreme value theorem, you should be testing the endpoints. So that's why they should be plugging in A and 4 and any critical numbers. And critical
Oh,
numbers are
okay,
when the
so
first
that's what
derivative
they're
equals
trying
0.
to find.
Yeah.
And then how would you find the critical numbers from that?
Well, this is a
What would
calculator
T
question.
is inside, yeah.
So I would not do any of this by hand. I'd either graph this and then graph this and then find where they intersect.
Oh, okay.
Or you could do equation solver. The only issue with equation solver is
Yeah,
it's only gonna give you
solver-
one answer and there might be more than one. But you sound like you're pretty close there.
You know, your website keeps getting blocked by security.
Yeah, that's, I pulled up my phone.
I had to like every now and again when you open it.
Is it just that site or others? 'Cause
No,
I've had
it's other
issues.
sites too.
It's like all of the sites on the
I think
school
it's
website.
the district that must be doing something with the internet.
Most of those will download if you click the link, so I would just suggest downloading the ones that you need when it's opening there. And then hopefully they fix it and quit messing with it soon. Is this your yearbook?
Yeah.
Can I look at it real quick?
Mm-hmm.
I won't read any of your stuff or anything in this.
Oh, yeah. I should put that.
Just want to see. I never go and get my picture taken.
Oh.
So some years they don't put me in here, and then some years they try to use the old picture. Just curious what's they do. If they even put pictures in here.
Yeah, they're with the end, I think.
Yep, not in there.
Oh, you are.
No, I'm not.
See, it's just that you
Did you want them to use them to your old picture, or did you
Well,
want?
because it's like in October, and they're like, come on down and get your picture taken. We'll put you to the front of the line. It's like, I'm doing stuff.
Yeah.
And plus, why do I want my picture in there?
So people can be like, look, that's my t-shirt.
My goal is to retire someday, and then there'll be like no evidence I ever worked here.
That'd be so weird.
See what?
That'd be weird. It's kind of sad too. Yeah.
Fortunately, it's a reality. Like, Mr. Spencer was like one of our chemistry teachers, and he was like, everybody knew him. He was always walking around, like, would just be randomly visiting the teachers in their rooms.
Yeah.
And then he retired, and then he passed away a couple years later, and half the teachers here don't even know who he is anymore. In a couple more years, there'll be very few that remember him. Can you get a better Wi-Fi signal like that?
No, it just doesn't go on my mouth.
on AP.
You got a question though? Okay, that's all the papers. But if you guys talk to anybody that's not here today, you might tell them that I've got some of their graded papers that they may get back.
So should I grab, okay, so, what are the two, so I tried to put in this for one, but I don't think that's, like, here, they're using the NFT. For the, so like, how would I draw
A of T is the rate,
that? Yeah,
whereas N of T is the number of vehicles and line items. So it just depends on what you're trying to find. If you're trying to find the
the
maximum,
greatest number of vehicles.
yeah, then you should be using N of T.
Yeah, but like, how would I draw that? Like A and T and A of X, like this is A of T, this is A of X.
Well, if you're going from A to A, how much area?
Maybe.
Yeah, but for the first one,
Okay.
if you plug in A.
That's 0,
Yeah,
yes.
cause there's no opening there. For, so do you have A from the previous part of the question? I feel like something up here was supposed to be
Oh, the A here,
A. I feel like this A. Did you have to find that little A at some point?
No, cause this is just, right, current value, expression, this is average value. And then, this is
A is the time when the line first starts to flow.
oh, at 5 AM 0? Oh, maybe it's just 0. Because
At 5
it
a.m. there's
says,
no vehicle
yeah,
in
so
waiting.
0, because at 6 AM it's 1. So 5 AM it's 0, right?
I think what you might have to do is graph this and
Like-
then see which time
Okay.
is positive, because that's when.
Like I graphed it, but like it was a weird. Like it's.
Well, your Windows skills.
I mean, it's just zoomed out, but I guess like I can zoom right into this section, but like it's,
Okay,
like I'm just.
but you're, I
I'm
think you're
just in the
super
window.
zoomed out.
Yeah, cause you can, but it's at 400. For the line.
But you probably don't need to go down so far. You could maybe do like 0 to 600. That would probably look a lot better. I don't know what these lines are.
Yeah, or, okay, so that one up there is, there's just the 400, just said like graph the 400 and like the function, like see where it intersects. So that was like,
Okay.
I was trying to graph the 400 there. Should I take that out? Do you want to take that out?
Sure. I mean, right now, I think you need to find A. Look at the scoring guide and see what they say A is. I would think it's probably some decimal.
They, yeah, like 1.4, but like I don't know how they found. They say A is 1.4. Oh wait, that was the, yeah, okay, yeah, that was like those two T's, like that's what, they said T equals A and T equals B. And then they found from like that A of T equals 400, the two T's, and that's what I was trying to do up here. And that's when you said graph, I said that's gonna work.
Yeah, I don't remember it. It's been a while since I worked this one out, but they're getting that A value from that.
Yeah.
So those times that you were supposed to find,
Like,
or I guess you
don't
weren't
know.
supposed to do it till right here. But that would be,
Like how did they find that?
well, it's when this equals 400,
Uh-huh.
so you needed to solve this still.
Okay, yeah, that's what like I like tried to write that, or like I tried to write that out and put equals 400. But you said it would be easier to graph.
Well, yeah, but graph 100 and graph this.
Yeah, that's what I just had, that's what this
Okay,
is.
well, I know, but I thought you were asking the next part.
Okay, yeah, okay, I was still trying to figure out the two T's.
You guys always like dots.
Yeah, I think it's, maybe it's 'cause it's zoomed out, I don't know.
I think it's some other section. I think this is gonna be good enough. Just your, something to do with your, graphing. Do you have like any programs or anything in here that you care about? Okay. What's this research calculator? So then, all those settings go back to default. So you'll have to type it back in, but then when you graph it, it shouldn't be those dots. But that line, that 400 line, should be intersecting that other line in two places. So if you calculate the intersection, you should be getting the same values that they're getting.
Change the window.
Mhm. Oh wait, now see, if you're changing X max, you're making it go further to the right. You need to go further up, so change Y max. Yeah, make it like 600 or 700 or something. If it's too big. See, now it's not a dotted line. So there's one of them, there's 400. So here's
those,
where it's,
those are the two T's
Yes.
for A and B.
that's the 2 times that they're looking for. So if you need to do second, trace, calculate the intersection, but those decimals should match up with what they had in the scoring guide.
So the question is, using the tangent non-formation, so
You want to refer to the second derivative, because that's going to tell you if it's concave up or concave down. So if it's concave up, your tangent is going to be an underestimate. See how this, but if it's concave down, it's going to be an overestimate.
So I tried to explain that, but I just didn't like the first derivative. I said like, since it's decreasing as t increases, the slope of the tangent line is going to be greater than the true value.
Yeah, well, if you're saying the slope of the tangent, the slope of what?
Ashley, what are you working
The
on?
slope of the
I'm trying to do this in and out.
It
I
had to be
forget
fine,
the
like,
first one was
okay.
kind, but I'm like struggling just graphing it in the calculator, finding
What I would say
finding where it
is
intersects.
function is concave up, concave down.
Like, and there's like the numbers, and that is such an odd function, the numbers get so big, it's so 400, like, I just can't get the calculator to think of where graph. So, yeah.
Yeah, I understand, but I would suspect that that's how they would refer to it, because that's like the most efficient way to do it. I think your wording was probably pretty close, but you would need to say something about the slope, the rate of change of the function is less than, which is just a long way of saying this, the tangent line, or the rate of change of the function is more than, but that's just a long way to say it. So if it's concave up or second derivative.